Good evening, Democrats. I am so pleased to welcome you to this evening's program. I was not with you last week. The office was closed. We were celebrating Juneteenth. And while that is not a holiday in Oklahoma, it certainly is for the Oklahoma Democratic Party. We have an exciting show tonight. My guest is someone that I can't wait for you to meet, someone who energizes me every time we have an opportunity to talk. And we're also going to be looking at how butthurt some Republicans are over the president having a great big pride celebration at the White House. So as we continue with pride for just a couple more days, we will wind up this Pride Month with tonight's show. All that and more on the Hamilton Report. Well, we are officially in summer, and if you are in Oklahoma or Texas or Louisiana or anywhere else in this part of the country, you know that it's summer. Just please take caution when you're out and around this week. The heat index in Oklahoma City on Wednesday is, I think, 110 and 113 on Thursday, so do take care of yourselves. Well, as I indicated, Pride Month is coming to a close, and it has been a year of, I think, mixed emotions for a lot of LGBTQIA2 plus folks. And we'll be talking to my guest about that in just a moment. But first, I want you to take a look at this local Fox News report on the pride display at the White House. Let's take a look, and then we'll talk about it in a moment.
There appears to be a symbolic battle brewing between House Republicans and the Biden administration. It seems over accusations that the White House violated U.S. flag code while hosting a pride event. Flag code says the American flag, quote, should be at the center and at the highest point when presented among other banners. Additional flags should never be to the right of the American flag, but the White House is defending the move.
We have one flag. That's an American flag. This identity politics is going to destroy the United States of America.
The administration was proud, again, to display the pride flag. It was a historic event at the White House. It's centered around love and family.
Well, the House GOP's political arm says that liberals, quote, hate the stars and stripes and what it represents.
Okay, let's get a couple things straight. First of all, the flag code that was mentioned in that report, they did a very poor job in reporting it, and the Republicans who were so angry about it also did a bad job because basically they did not correctly talk about the U.S. flag code. It only has to do when the United States flag is on a staff. And as you saw in that clip, these were banner flags. And as you saw in the opening there, perhaps high above the White House was an American flag. And so they were all upset over nonsense. And I have to laugh. Tommy Tuberville, oh, what a clown that man is. Because for him to say, we have one flag in this country, except for how about all those Trump flags, Tuberville? How about all those swastika flags, Tommy? And let's not forget the good old stars and bars of the Confederacy that continue to be flown in many parts of this country. So let's cool it with the hyperbole and the hypocrisy. If you cannot enjoy Pride Month and celebrating the folks in your jurisdiction who are LGBTQIA2 plus, then just go back to your hole somewhere. All right, that's as good a way of any, I guess, as introducing my guest this evening. This is somebody that I've known and worked with for the last 4 years, and I have to tell you, someone that I look up to because every time I'm with him, I learn something, and he's just a ray of sunshine for me. I want to introduce to you now Stephen Handwerk. Stephen, good evening, and thank you for wrapping up Pride Month with us.
Good evening, my friend. I couldn't think of a better way of doing it than talking about the Republican pearl clutching that they're doing right now
Yes.
with having our Pride event at the White House. So incredibly ridiculous, but man, they'll never cease to amaze me with their ridiculous.
Stephen, we're having some connectivity issues, I think, because your audio cut out and your video kind of stumbled there for a bit. But I got the gist of what you were saying. I want to talk a little bit about your time as the executive director of the Louisiana Democratic Party, because at the time that you left that position, you were not only the longest serving ED in the state's history, that also puts you as one of the longest serving executive directors for one state of any of us in the country. So that's quite an accomplishment. And the work that you did there was really nothing short of amazing. You built on what was there, and you did it in such a powerful, pronounced way. So let's talk a little bit about your work as the executive director in Louisiana, and then we'll look at how that work has impacted what you're doing today.
Sure. Well, I greatly appreciate that. And look, it was really an honor to serve for the time that I was there. As folks may not know, we were very proud to get to work and elect a very LGBT friendly governor that we have right now. John Bel Edwards has been absolutely outstanding on our issues, fighting very hard for us. And it was great to see him evolve as a candidate and be able to be there to help him do that throughout the years. One of the things that didn't even make headlines here was Governor John Bel Edwards had the first openly trans senior staff members. His press secretary was openly trans, and it was never a story. It was never a big deal. Tucker did his job and did an amazing job at it. And it was never an issue. And so seeing a governor that actually puts his values forward by allowing us to serve in all of the amazing capacities that we can was really powerful and uplifting. So I'm really glad to have supported him. And also, he's a little bit more conservative on a few of the areas of note. But the great thing was he empowered me, especially of being able to go out there and say what was true to me, how I felt, how I believed on issues, and never tried to pull us back from that. So it's really great to work in that sort of an environment.
You know, one of the things that has, and we're talking about progress, and you obviously had a lot of progress in Louisiana. And we are seeing some progress in Oklahoma now as well. We won an additional House seat this year or last year for the first time in a very long time. So the tide is shifting. However, we still have these morality wars that are playing out. And as a result, I read just last week a new survey that said for the first time in 20 years, general support for marriage equality in this country has slipped. Now, it's certainly not back to the old days, but I'm wondering what you attribute that to. Is it just the incessant whining of Republicans? What do you think is causing that kind of a shift? And like I said, it's minor, but I'm watching those numbers very carefully.
Yeah, so I think that it's the constant drumbeat of us versus them. No matter what side or what topic you're talking about, there's an us versus them. It seems that you can't even enjoy a television show, competition of some sort, without having this us versus them mentality. And it used to be that we could just agree to disagree on things. Well, now it's so fervent. Now it's so in your face. I mean, it has become utterly ridiculous in some regards that it always has to be this fight. And so I think that constant drumbeat is certainly something that is going to have an inevitable result, I think, sadly. And I think I see some of that pushback. But the interesting thing to me, Scott, and I don't know if you've seen this, where I've drawn inspiration is not always just from our community, because quite frankly, you and I have been in this fight for a long time. We've been fighting for our equality. We've been fighting for our friends and others in this fight. And some of us could be a little bit tired. I know I am. I'm a little bit tired of the fight. But what I'm drawing inspiration from is not only seeing the youth in our community, but what I'm incredibly excited to see is all of our straight allies coming to our defense. That to me has been so freaking powerful to be able to see, because I can remember a time, and I think you probably can too, where it seemed really lonely in that Pride Parade. It seemed really lonely in standing up for our values and for the things that we hold dear, and to make these arguments. And so seeing our straight allies being literally right there and oftentimes leading the fight for us, man, that really does something to my soul, and it certainly makes me happy.
And I'm going to take that. I'm glad you said that, because I'm going to take it one step further. And what really energizes me is exactly what you said, but also looking at the young folks who are standing up in support of their lesbian, gay, bi, trans friends. They are really leading the charge in support of their friends. And you and I did not have that kind of support when we were in high school or college, or frankly, for a number of years after that. And so to see young people today who they just don't care, they're friends, they don't care, that I think bodes well for us as a country. And if we can just get these young folks engaged and voting, then we will really be able to move some mountains.
You know, that's so true. And that's what I think we're finally starting to see. You know, there for the longest time, we were constantly sitting around the tables. You've been in these rooms where we are lamenting about, man, turnout wasn't where it needed to be. And what do we got to do to inspire? Man, and guess who showed up in this last election? Young folks. These young folks turned out in numbers that I have never dreamed of. We talked about the Obama days, especially for in 2008, where we had that huge surge and we had young folks turn out. But did you see the midterm that just happened? And the numbers there for young folks turning out in a freaking midterm? I mean, I'm so inspired by that. So yes, there is hope. There is hope. And the great thing about it is, too, they're leading in ways that are kind of different from the way you and I used to lead.
That's right.
Being able to put coalitions together and being able to kind of take a step back and say, you know what? I never thought of that, but by golly, it's actually working. And you know what? Maybe I just need to stand back and smile and shake my head in agreement and kind of draw inspiration from it. So it's a new day. It's a new set of leaders. And I couldn't be happier to kind of pass the baton. And if ever someone reaches out to me, a good friend ask me to join their television show, I will certainly do it and talk about the good old days. But I gotta tell you, you know, I'm drawing so much inspiration from seeing the young folks that are showing up and fighting for being able to read the books we want to read, standing up and fighting for legal access to health care. I mean, to see the backslide that we've had on so many different things has just been so inspiring, though, to see the folks that are standing up and leading that fight.
I absolutely agree with you. And now I'm going to turn it back to something that's a little darker. When I said it's been a month of mixed emotions for many of us, I really believe that it has. When you consider that some major cities who have long-standing reputations as having terrific pride parades, pride events, this year didn't, because of things that are happening at the State House or with a governor or in their community. And that's a troubling situation. And it's not one that I think there's not a prescription one size fits all, because every one of these is different. Now, all of us who are under the leadership, and I'm using that term quite loosely, of Republican governors who are so entrenched in anti-LGBT everything. Um, we get it, we see it, and we continue to push on. But I am concerned that people are more cautious, more afraid, because I think too many people work too long, too hard to make sure that we didn't have to go back to those times. But one of the cities I'm thinking about is Tampa, because Tampa has always had a huge pride effort, and this year they canceled their parade because of the work that's been done in the legislature and in the governor's office this year. How are you seeing things right now in Louisiana? And I know Louisiana is absolutely not. It's not a monolith in any way. Things are different, one town to the next, one city to the next. But can you give us a general feeling for how things are moving in Louisiana right now?
Yeah, so that is an interesting. Your call out there is certainly something that I am drawing pause from as well. The one thing that I can say is that we have to understand what their playbook is. When we're looking at these things, we understand that what they want to do is silence us. They want to erase us. They want to make sure that we are not allowed to bring and show ourselves. They want us to go back into the closet. They want us to not be able to acknowledge our families. And in doing so, they're shutting these things down as best they can. The problem that they have with this is that we're not going back in the closet. Those hangers hurt. They poke you. And I'm not going back into the closet. I mean, which is hysterical, because when you look at what I've done throughout my career, I was the first openly gay man to lead our state party in Louisiana. And I wasn't the first LGBT person. I was the first out person. And so when I was contemplating taking on the role, the question did come up that, like, wait a second, are you going to be out or like in, or like, and I was like, hold on a second. I've been so far out, like I don't have any closets in my house. So like even the thought of going back in the closet was kind of ridiculous. All you had to do was Google my name and you would see all of this work, right? All of these things that I've done and the people that I've called out. So, that's where I kind of draw inspiration from, that I am sad to see the lack of intestinal fortitude by individuals who are allowing Governor DeSantis and many others. He is by far not the only one. And by the way, he's not the worst either, sadly. But I'm seeing these folks, and it's sad to me to see the individuals that don't have the intestinal fortitude to stand up and fight back and to actually be there and be vocal. The problem is, it's just like cooking. If you've got a pressure cooker, that steam builds up, that pressure builds up, and soon it's going to explode. It's going to have to go out some way. And I'm hoping that it doesn't have to become violent. I'm hoping that it doesn't have to get ridiculous. I'm hoping that we can actually calmer heads are going to prevail. And I think we're going to see a massive landslide in this next election cycle, because we're going to have people that are just fed up. They've got gay family members, they've got, lesbian sisters, and they've got trans cousins, and they're not going to allow this to determine their future. They're going to say enough of this crap. And I'm really hoping that that's where this ends up leading. But you're right, the inevitable gut punch that we had by seeing these cancellations, I'm hoping that somebody can help steel their spine.
Yeah, me too. And I recognize that people are afraid that they'll be arrested, if there's a drag queen. But in our community, there have been a lot of people arrested over the years. Most of them were arrested improperly or very dubiously. I'll say that. And then others were arrested for civil disobedience, and ACT UP comes to mind. But had that not happened, we would not have things like PrEP today. We would not have the AIDS medications that we have today. And so I'm going to join with you in saying, look, if you need our support to stand up straight, then let's do this thing, because not one of us thought that Roe would ever be overturned. I mean, that was just
Exactly.
unthinkable. And look what happened. We cannot take
That's exactly right.
our credit. They're too easy to get rid of today. Well,
You know what? You're right. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that we're talking about Louisiana, but your role now is much greater. You have just done such great work in building partnerships with vendors and sponsors for ASDC meetings. And our viewers, if you tuned in 2 weeks ago, you know I was at an ASDC meeting and had on executive directors from several other states. And that doesn't happen by accident. You put an awful lot of work into that. And I'm grateful for the work that you're doing. I'm grateful that you didn't say, you know what, I've had enough of this political stuff. I'm going to set it out for a while. But I do understand what it means to become weary, maybe not tired, but at least weary of the work. But I'd like to know how your work as an advocate for and an activist within the gay community, how that has informed and continues to inform your political work today, Stephen.
That's a really good question. I'm going to tell you a quick story about it that I think is most demonstrative of kind of where we were, where we're going, and where we need to get to. So back in the day, I was part of the national board for Stonewall Democrats, and we did a lot of work in educating and really kind of standing up. The whole impetus of starting Congressman Barney Frank, then Congressman Barney Frank, and many others got together and said, what are these log cabin Republicans, and how in the world are they actually standing up and having a voice? We should have some sort of a response here. And also, quite frankly, our party's not great on our issues. We need to get them better. So I joined with a lot of folks, and I was lucky enough to go to a conference when Barney was still coming to all of those meetings. And he and I happened to be on the same hotel floor. So we shared an elevator together. And he had just done, that Sunday, Meet the Press with Tim Russert. That was before Tim Russert had passed away, for those of us who've been around a minute. But anyhow, he was on there, and I was like, and I told him in the elevator, I was like, it was impressive to me that he went the entire interview. He was on for a 20-minute clip, right? Not one question about being gay. I said, that is amazing, Congressman. Look how far you've come. And he said, well, that was by design. He goes, when I first started doing these national shows, he goes, I had to limit them. They could only give me 2 questions about being gay. And he goes, then inevitably it went to 1 question. He goes, now I don't even have to bring it up anymore. He goes, because I'm chairing the banking committee. I'm actually doing these things. Well, I kind of tried to model myself after that, because there for a while I was, the token gay liberal that would get called up to be on radio shows, that would get called up to do stuff before I went to the party. And that's where I was like, okay, you know what? There is a reason of being in the room. You want to be invited. You need to be at the table. As Donna Brazil always says, if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And that is so freaking true. So that's kind of, the little story about engagement and kind of where we've come and how far we've got yet to go. Knowing that this is still something. So it's about representation. It's about showing up, and it's about not ever hiding your candle under a bushel. You really need to be out there and living your values, because people will notice.
They absolutely do. And I appreciate you saying that. And what you didn't say, I will happily say for you, at least from my perspective. I think working with and for the LGBTQ community is probably some of the best training anyone could ever have working for the Democratic Party, because it's very similar in that everyone has an idea. Everybody wants to be heard over everyone else. And so it really is herding cats. the beautiful thing is, once we start moving in one direction, we can still have our conversations and we can still introduce new ideas. But once we start moving in one direction, that really is when we start to see some positive results. And
not
that's
allowing ourselves, that's exactly right. And not allowing ourselves to be divided. You know, we saw this back when we were fighting for employment non-discrimination, where they were trying to peel folks off. Well, okay, we can do this for the gays and the lesbians, but let's not deal with the trans community yet. That's too complicated. We said, no, it's all of us or none of us. It's all of us or none of us. And that is the same mentality that we've got to adopt now, because they are trying to pick us off. And if we do not realize that there is a tangible connection between women and their reproductive choices, and also being a member of the LGBTQ community, if you do not see the direct relationship there in what the Republicans are trying to do, then you're not paying attention. We have to realize that this fight is all of us, and we are all standing up for this, and we cannot back down.
That beautifully said. Beautifully said. I'm going to take a moment now, because this is a song that resonates for me so much on so many levels. I'll never forget the first time I heard it, and even now, it motivates me to continue doing what I'm doing. And I want to thank the folks at Logo for hanging on to this clip for posterity, because I think it's definitely a defining performance. Let's take a look at this clip now.
I am what I am. I am my own special creation. So come, take a look. Give me the hook for the ovation. It's my world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say, hey world, I am what I am. I am what I am. I don't want praise, I don't need pity. I bang my own drum. Some think it's noise, well, I think it's pretty. And so what if I love each feather and each spangle? Why not try to see life from a different angle? Your life is a sham till you can shout out loud, I am what I am. I am what I am, and what I am needs no excuses. I deal my own deck, sometimes the ace, sometimes the deuces. There's one life, and there's no return and no deposit. One life, so it's time to open up your closet. Life's not worth a damn till you can say, hey world, I am what I
Now try to keep that out of your head for the rest of the night. I bet you can't do it.
It's
The
not going to
reason,
happen. It is going to be right there.
for me too. But the reason I wanted to bring that up is because while that's certainly true for us in the LGBTQ plus community, just being who we are, it translates vividly to who we are as Democrats. Um, our chair has been so focused on not being whisper Democrats anymore. And in a red state, it can be a real challenge. But the more of us who can just say, look, I've had it with the nonsense. I care about my family and my neighbors and the people down the street. I care about children, even if I don't have children. It means that we've got to be loud. We've got to be vocal. And I think that will increase not only our pride in our work and in our party, Stephen, but it also increases our self-worth. And sometimes we just don't have enough opportunities to do that. So, well, my friend, before I let you go, I just wanted to again say thank you for being with us tonight. I hope that you've I don't know how many Pride events you've gone to. My guess is probably none because you've been working so much. But being here tonight with you has been very special. And I'm going to count on you coming back and talking to us and keeping us informed what's going on, especially as we move closer to next year's big convention in Chicago.
That sounds great. And I will be happy to. I've been a fan of the show. What do they always say? A long-time listener, first-time guest. So I just adore the work that you're doing. I think that this is such a great opportunity for you and your chair. The work that you guys do for the party to actually be out there and make yourselves available, I think is just outstanding. So kudos to you guys.
Well, thank you for everything you do. And in these last few days, happy Pride, my friend.
You too, my friend. Thank you so much.
Well, friends, we're just about out of time, but I need to tell you a couple of things very quickly. Tomorrow on Alicia Andrews' 4:15 broadcast, which, as you probably know, is the ODP Chair's daily live update. Tomorrow she will be joined with Governor David Walters, and this is going to be a very, very good opportunity for you to hear from these two leaders about what it means to grow an economy, to build a state that people can be proud of and happy to live in. So I ask that you tune in tomorrow at 4:15. And next Monday night, we're talking about white privilege, but I'm going to put that a different way. We're going to be talking about my privilege. And I want to showcase how we can all use our privilege wherever we are, and regardless of how we come about that privilege, to really make life better for other people. And finally, tonight, before we go, just a moment of personal privilege. The 28th of June is the anniversary of Stonewall. It's also my anniversary to Wayne Johnson. On the 28th of this month, we will celebrate 32 years together. There were times when I know we questioned, could we make it to the end of the week? Sadly, we did, and I'm grateful and I'm humbled. And I'm very blessed to have this man as my husband, my partner, and most of all, my friend. Speaking of friends, thank you, my friends, for joining us tonight. I look forward to seeing you again next week for the Hamilton Report. Until then, for Alicia, our staff, our elected officials, and all of us at the Oklahoma Democratic Party, I'm Scott J. Hamilton, thanking you for joining us. Good night.